Welcome to PSBA's Extracting Honey 101 training. It will help you be prepared for your upcoming honey harvest. This training is required for anyone renting extracting gear from PSBA, but we hope it will help everyone in their planning of their honey harvest. The segments of training are outlined here and are intended to be done in sequential order. There is a review quiz at the end of each segment, so make sure you pay attention. Before you extract, did you know that a leading cause of colony death over winter is starvation? Don't contribute to this. Before harvesting, assess your honey stores. Leave enough honey for your bees to live off of over fall and winter. A hive in the Pacific Northwest needs between 60 to 80 pounds of honey, and each medium frame holds about 4 pounds of honey when full, so do the math. Okay, so you've done the math and you have some honey that you want to harvest. What frames can you take out of the hive? Those that are capped, meaning the honey is covered in wax. If you take out a frame and you can shake it on its side and nectar flies out, that means it's not ripe, it's not capped, and you don't want to harvest that, else it will ferment. When selecting frames for extracting, don't accidentally contaminate your honey by selecting frames that have been exposed to chemicals. This can easily happen when using the same size equipment for both your brood boxes and honey supers. Also, don't harvest so-called honey from the frames which were in the hive while feeding the bees sugar syrup. This is not really honey, as it didn't originate from the nectar of flowers. One last thing to consider before extracting is your equipment. Extractors put stress on frames, wax, and foundation. If frames are not intact, are not wired, or wired or plastic foundation is not installed, there's risk that the frames or comb will come apart in the extractor, causing equipment damage, excess wax in the honey, or worse, injury. Consider an alternative form of honey extraction for these type of frames. Foundationless frames are not intended to be used in the extractor. PSBA offers members a benefit of renting extractor equipment, which can be quite costly if purchased on your own. Renting an extractor can be done online by visiting our website and following the link under the Resources tab. Be sure to read the rental details on our website. You'll be quizzed on this information later. Currently, there are 2 hand crank extractors and 1 electric extractor available for rental. The hand crank extractor can handle 4 frames at a time and are a good option if you only have a few supers to extract. Beyond that, you probably will want to rent the 12 frame extractor unless you just want to get a workout. Included in your rental of extracting gear is an uncapping tank. There's a couple different kinds, but basically this holds the wax cappings which you'll be removing from your honey frames. You'll also get an uncapping knife or plane, and we have electric and non-electric knives and then planes. It's very important to never immerse the electric knives or planes in water or to let them overheat. Do not let the electric devices heat to the point of smoking. Throttle the temperature by turning the device off and on as needed to achieve the results with uncapping. You also get a capping scratcher. This is used on the places of the frame where the knives or the planes don't reach. It's a good idea not to gouge your wax when you're using this, otherwise the bees have to spend a lot of time repairing that. Just scratch the surface to expose the honey. You'll also get a bottling bucket. I suggest that you probably strain your honey of the bits of wax and bee parts before putting it in this bucket. You can either get the nylon paint strainers from your local hardware store, pretty cheap, or if you just want to spend some money, there's some stainless steel strainers available from beekeeping supply catalogs. When uncapping frames, here are some tips that will preserve equipment and your honey. Remove only the top layer of wax, just enough to expose the honey. Find your preferred method in uncapping. Some folks like to place the frame on its side, like in the picture, especially when using the plane. Others like to position the frame vertically. If you use this method, make note of the small screw and the wooden bar in the uncapping tank. This is where you will rest the frame to stabilize and rotate it while uncapping. This makes the job easier. Remember, avoid overheating the electric knife or plane. If you smell cotton candy or smoke, the device is way too hot and you need to turn it off. Do not leave the hot knife or plane sitting in honey or cappings when not in use. A plate or other clean, heat-proof dish is a good idea. If you have a variety of honey to extract when uncapping, try to segregate your frames of light from dark honey so you can avoid blending your honey varieties in the extractor. Now that you have some uncapped frames, you can load them into the extractor. At all times, keep aware of moving parts in the extractors. The basket, the crank, the lid all move, sometimes at high speeds, and can easily pinch fingers or worse. When loading the extractor, always be sure to balance the load, placing frames of equal weight across from each other diagonally, especially if you don't have enough frames to fill the entire extractor. Once the extractor is full, you can close the lid and either start the motor or start cranking. In either case, start at a slow speed and increase as honey flows from the frames. Extractors tend to walk or bounce around if not balanced properly, so if the extractor starts to do this, it's best to start over and rebalance the load. After running the extractor for a couple of minutes, open the honey gate and have your food grade bucket beneath it to catch the honey flow. Once the honey stops flowing, turn off the extractor motor or stop cranking and let the basket come to a rest. Unplug the electric extractor before unloading. Now you can either unload frames and reload with more, or you may be done extracting. When extracting is complete, remember to unplug the extractor motor if using the electric model. Let the basket come to a rest and unload your last set of frames. You'll now need to get as much honey out of the extractor as you can. It's sometimes helpful to slightly tip the extractor toward the gate side to increase the flow out of the extractor. Tip the extractor by putting a 2 to 3 inch block under the stand opposite of the gate side, as long as the extractor seems stable. It's helpful to do this with two people. One stabilizes the extractor while the other places the lifting block. Once all the honey is flowed out, return the extractor to its level position. Remove the block. If you have a long-handled rubber or silicone spatula, it can be used to scrape inside the extractor to get all of the honey that may be clinging to the sides of the extractor. Once all the honey has been drained from the extractor, you're ready to clean the equipment. It is very important to follow PSBA's cleaning procedures available on our website on the extractor rental page. Extractor equipment is expensive and you can help us maintain it, as well as avoid losing your deposit if you follow cleaning instructions. Covered here are a few important points of the cleaning procedures, but it's best if you read the detailed instructions on our website. The first is use only water. Hot water works best, but definitely don't use soap. Keep extractor honey gate open when putting water in the extractor, or the axle bearings will be destroyed. Wipe down the uncapping knife or plane with a wet rag and dry them. Do not immerse them in water. Do not disassemble the extractor to clean. You can damage the equipment pretty easily if you take it apart. If you have any questions or problems, you can always contact our extractor manager by emailing extractor@pugetsoundbees.org. Thanks for taking this training and happy extracting!